All righty. Well, hello everyone. We're gonna thanks all everybody for coming. As you know, this week we're going to explore Walter Russell. We're going to continue into chapter 11 with electrical awareness and discuss how electrical awareness was in Walter Russell's cosmology. And with that, we're going to also explore some alchemy. We're going to explore some hermeticism. We're going to explore some quantum entanglement. Um, and so we will talk about a lot of those things. I don't know if we're going to get through everything today. We may end up with kind of bringing it all together next week with quantum entanglement, Einstein, and what that all means. But for right now, we're going to talk about Walter Russell. So let's get started. So the question that we're on, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Is well under number 11, number 1, how does Walter Russell describe the universe's connectivity? From page 51, the whole universe of countless parts is wired together by a countless flux of nerves which inform each part of the universe of the ever containing changing condition of every other part. Any comments on that?
Sounds like a brain to me.
A gigantic mind.
Also, the nerves there. It's like that podcast Dr. Lando gave with Crow there about the spine, and also what Steiner says about what grows out of our spine. I'm thinking, nerves, whatever. There's a certain number and stuff. So
33.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pull this up real quick and maybe I can get it on here. Let's see if I can get it on the second screen. Let's see here from Alphabetic. One thing I shared was there was a picture that I had on my class wall at my alchemy class. And I believe that that was, let's just go ahead and put that up since you guys are talking about that. So can you guys see that image there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, this would, if you remember last week, we talked about the eye of Ra being in the thalamus. So this was just a picture that actually showed that eye of Ra here in the thalamus, inside the skull. And it also shows what you guys are talking about, which is the backbone and the vertebrates at 33. And also, the kundalini of the serpents going up that backbone. So a lot of this is just an alchemical representation of what you guys were just talking about. So let's look a little bit about Walter Russell. What was he saying about this kind of stuff? So this is a diagram over here on the right-hand side from Walter Russell, from his book, A New Universe, I believe. And what this is, you can see here, you can see the Earth, the arc of the Earth. He's saying things are spheres. On the outside, we have space, and underneath we have the Earth, and then we have man on its surface. So we have space and we have Earth, and we have these electrical lights coming off of man, or these waves coming off of man. And it's kind of hard to read this. Let's see if I can actually zoom in a bit here. Let's go to a 200%.
I don't think it's available.
Not available. You're pretty good there.
Try that other side, yeah.
Go to about 175. It's kind of hard to read anyway because the image was not that.
My internet connection is unstable.
So as we look at this, what Walter Russell said I think it's over. Okay, so that's okay. So
There we go.
you guys can read this or not. It says all bodies are two, right? Just
right.
just as the sun is a dense body surrounded by a tremendous expanse of space. So as we see here, we're talking about this tremendous expanse of space here, but so think of this as the sun, a dense body surrounded by a tremendous amount of space is the ether half of its divided self. So what he's saying is you have the solid body and then you have the negative, which is the ether half. So there's just as much of its divided self. So it is every other body in the whole universe similarly divided into dense bodies surrounded by their other halves. So there's two bodies. There's the dense body and the ether body of their polarized cells. These two are but one body. It is divided into opposites, conditions which are compelled to continually interchange their polarity with each other in cycles of appearance, disappearance, and reappearance to create the illusion of change and separateness, which divides over a limited range of sensing into believing that the whole body is, but that dense part which is confined within its surface boundaries. The surface of a man's body is an equator which divides the two independent halves from each other. And then it says the invisible half of every body is thousands of times greater than its visible half.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, wow, that's right.
So within that, we have what we call Hermetics, and Hermeticism is from Egypt. We have great scholars such as Pythagoras and so on went to Egypt to learn Hermetics and came back and helped their own. And then we have Trismegistus, Hermes Trismegistus, who is known as 3 times Hermes, which they believe he showed up at different periods in time. But he had this whole idea of Hermeticism, which is basically the basis of alchemy and so on. And so within Hermetics, there's 2 basic laws. I mean, there's the first 2 laws. So all is from one is the first law of Hermetics. So just like Russell says, there is just source. That's all comes from the one. So when you think about Walter Russell, it's from a Hermetic's perspective. So what it says here is we live in a vast ocean of energy and everything seen and unseen is part of it. Well, this is exactly what Russell's saying. The alchemists call this energy the celestial fire, prima materia, the first matter, chaos, and many others. Everything around us, though it seems separate and different from ourselves, is one, only one. So within this, what we're saying is that we see this separateness because of our senses actually make us believe that we are separate, which is really our ego. So within this, our ego, which is our separateness, the more we develop our ego, the more separate we become. And it's not really that we are separate. We have to understand that separateness is an illusion. That it's all one, it's all happening at one time, and it's all from one source. But as we experience it because of the way our physical mind works, we can't grasp all that at one time. So we need the introduction of space and of time for sequence.
We believe we are the physical body.
Yes, we believe
That's
that.
what, you're right.
Correct. And anything else you want to talk about that, Doug?
It's just what I've been fighting with for years to, start to not see it for a second here and there, which helps a lot.
And then
So it's been the battle
and
to me. It's always putting myself down and negative and all that stuff. It's, it's taken a long time to finally realize, that there is something else.
And so the second law of Hermetics is the law of polarity, which we just learned here. So one of the earliest observations of nature was that everything has its opposite: day, night, male, female, hot, cold, wet, dry. The one divides into active and passive models. The active energy constituting the energies of life, and the passive one, energy of matter. Consider the image of a sine wave, two opposite energies, but one wave. So as you guys may remember, the diagram I did to kind of start a lot of this series was this diagram again. I'll keep going back to this, but again, the sine wave is right in here, right? This is what separates the yin and the yang. These are the two polarized lights, the dark and the light, which we're saying, which is really a Hermetic idea. And then that goes as a magnetic pulse that goes out. So as we get down and talk a little bit more about, there should be Akasha. Akasha, Acacia, whatever we wish to call it, or ether. So what is the Akasha, right? Akasha is a Sanskrit word that can be translated as ether. So they're interchangeable. And with the root word kas, meaning to be visible, sky, atmospheric or open space, it is used in traditional Indian cosmology and is also present in some examples of Western spiritualism. In Hinduism, it is used to mean the essence of everything that exists in the material world. It is one of the five elements that make up the Pancha Mahabhatu, with others being earth, fire, air, and water. So the five elements are Akasha, earth, fire, air, and water. Any comments on that or questions?
So, Akasha is one of the five elements. Is that what exactly you just said? Okay.
Yes. With the other four being earth, fire, air, and water.
I like the waves on the picture, right?
Yeah, and that's why I put it up, because what this
and it's blue.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the water, maybe, huh?
No.
No.
Go ahead, Giselle.
Well, I'm thinking like the Buddhic plane, or like we've talked about blue before. I just don't remember quite right now.
Well, what we're seeing here, and I kind of put this up. It's kind of an illustration of the waves going through, right, through the Akasha here, right? These waves that are going through, and here we have the sun and the fire, and then we have the body, right, which is really a star body, which is made
all the astrology around it.
With all the astrology around it, exactly right. Because within Hermeticism, we actually look at the body and each organ as part of the cosmos.
Yeah.
So, well, when you look at the body, you look at Aries as the chakra at the top of the head. You have Taurus as the throat chakra. Gemini as the forearms. You have Leo as the heart. You have Virgo down here within the sexual reproductive organs. You have Scorpio and so on. Each of these planets, Pisces as the feet, actually represent part of the bodies and actually get their energies and are formed by those planets. So as Walter Russell was stating back here in this diagram of the Earth, that the visible body, right, all we see is the organs, but behind those is 10,000 times, right, the energy, thousands of greater than its visible half. So what we see with the eyes is very finite. What's actually building those and the energies that are coming into those are thousands of times greater. And we just see it as some tissue or some matter. But the energy behind it is so much greater. And that's kind of what this diagram is showing here, is that we actually are these star bodies that are being, that have these waves running through them. And we're being influenced by all the planets. So the energies around us that actually constitute who we are, what we think, and what we're made of are far greater than just what we see as chemistry or biology. It's universal in
I
nature.
really like that, the star body.
So as we see this, and this is an old drawing, I mean, so that's how old, I mean, this is like, medieval or before drawing, right?
Mm.
So, that they were thinking about and it even, like I said, it goes back to Egypt. So, what happened was that the typical way to think was alchemical, but that came from Egypt. That came, they actually said that Christ, went around and went to Egypt and so on. It says in the Bible he went to Egypt after he was born, but also went to other mystery schools and learned alchemy. All the great philosophers from Greece did, they learned alchemy. And then along with Newton, who was actually, his writings, he was more of an alchemist than a scientist, but they published more of his scientific work because they wanted to go in that direction. Whoever that was, that's up to debate of who that is and what that is. But up until that time, this is how people actually looked at the body. And alchemical medicine, or hermetic medicine, is still being practiced in Germany and some other countries like Afghanistan.
Nice.
So it's still around, and people still, it's not here in the United States, but I would say it's more common than what we're led to believe. Let's go back and look at the next question. So we kind of looked at that. So we have these constant flux nerves, as we talked about, the brain, the ether, the akasha, all running through everything, and it's countless numbers. So within that, I'm going to hold off on this next question for a second, and we're going to go ahead and review a little bit more about alchemy here. So alchemy can be understood as the release of soul from the body and its subsequent reunion with it. This is the essence of the secret of composition, and is the composing that we find the final perfection, and the key to the final perfections comes from us. So within alchemy, what you do is you take a substance and you put it either in a solution or under heat, and that will release a portion of that plant or material or whatever. And that is one aspect of it. And then you take, if you put alcohol with it to separate that, you would take that alcohol, because that would have, a tincture from the plant. And then you would also have the actual physical plant that was left over from once you did all these processes. You burn the physical plant, turn that into a salt through some processes, and then you can recombine them all back into a tincture or a elixir, or whatever you want to call it. And there's different names based on how you actually do the process. But the idea again is that you're separating these all out like a death. You're bringing them all back together and resurrecting them into a new being. So some of this I actually look at as Walter Russell's talked to us about, as actually beginning to get away from the physical body, understanding that all this physicality that we see, that we are, this sensing, is not us. And that we actually must get above that, which is into the knowing and into the source and into the one, to actually know what knowing is and get away from the thinking that is electrical and is the brain. So within this also, the alchemical concept of life and matter lies at the opposite poles of that of the current scientific community. Science is trying to find out how matter created life, biology, Darwinism,
Nonsense.
and
Sorry.
alchemy states.
Breaking the atom. I don't know.
Alchemy states that life created matter. Okay, that life created matter. And I'm going to go back to this original diagram that I did, right? Which we talked about from this magnetic light, there was an essence, there was some life of man that was this redshift blue shift. That from this life, that's where this magnetic light hits and then creates the spectrum from which matter is created. So this life was not physical at the first point in time, or it was more of a causal body, an etheric body, whatever. But once this was separated, once this first drop of energy of life was then separated from the one, the thoughts went out, and that then created matter, not the opposite.
Yeah.
So what I'm, when you look at, it's kind of hard to understand this because I do have the body here, but that's because once this happens, then the matter is created. Any comments on that?
Well, it's good to know that there's this process that happens within us,
Mm-hmm.
They call it alchemy. Well, that's good.
So the all or the one is that which is the fundamental truth, the substantial reality, standing under and supporting reality. The all is beyond comprehending or the ability to truly name it. So we use symbol and call it the all, the absolute, the divine, spirit, the force, God, the one, only one. Whatever you choose, it is just a symbol so we can talk about it. This is perhaps best describes as infinite living mind. So again, this gets back to our very beginning about with Walter Russell. This is alchemical text that we're reading right now from Robert Bartlett, who I took the class from. But this is really the idea of that, that mind of God, the all-knowing that starts right here, the still magnetic light universe of God's knowing, which is invisible and changing. All imagining is God's imagining, right? So within alchemy, which is, like I said, a very ancient art, we also, have the beginnings of what Walter Russell has discussed as the beginning turning into matter. So this last quote here is what we call matter is only that portion of the all we apprehend through our senses, just as Walter Russell says. It is only a label we use to designate the manifestation of the all within the range of our limited sensory apparatus. Again, we had a question of can we know the mind of God? And it's no, but we can see it. So we can see it in matter, but we can't know it. We can't know it through matter. We can only know it through knowing. Each one of us is unique, as we talked about, and when we talked about that each one of us has a pineal gland, each of us has our own unique resonance, separated only by their rates of vibration.
Oh,
So each person has their own rate of vibration, which is their separateness, which when you go back to this diagram here, right, as this magnetic light comes into each person's essence, which has a unique concept, it will then change these light filters just a bit to create different reality and different matter, which goes out then and creates this matter. So I like this. I like what he's written because it really is a little bit easier for me to understand. It also connects the things that we talked about. So with it, so used to do so
Hmm.
through the senses, only label we use. Oh, okay, so each of one of us has unique, complex waveform, though we also share many of the same harmonics. So again, we're talking about the wave and harmonics. Like fingerprints, we are unique but all related.
Hmm.
Modern science takes advantage of this fact in order to identify materials by their vibratory nature in the form of spectral resonance.
All right.
Okay.
So within this, it's really a lot of what Walter Russell's talking about. Walter Russell gets a little bit more into, to where alchemy kind of sticks within the Hermetic framework.
Mm-hmm.
Walter Russell actually takes the Hermetic framework and brings it more into a science. And how does that relate to today with electrical equipment and products that are available today, and even within the realm of scalar and so on that was developed by Tesla. So, is there alchemy in humans, right? And every element has three. All forms have the three components. So we're told that rocks, animals, plants all have these three components of spirit, soul, and body, and can all be separated out. They're just in different forms of development and at different rates of vibration. So plants would be the highest rate of vibration. They last the shortest period of time for most parts. We have trees, but trees have a lot more mineral in them than other forms of plant. They're much denser. Then comes man and animals, and then comes stones. So they're all made of the same vibratory substance. It's just their rates are much different. So stones and minerals have a very, very slow rate
Okay.
of vibration. And so within alchemy, this is from the book also, the celestial niter and the passive energy celestial salt, we call these the volatile and the fixed. These two modes of the one express an inherent polarity as well. So again, we're back to Russell with the two polarities, male, female. Some call it positive, negative. Leo didn't like that because he was saying women were negative. So I don't want to call it positive and negative either. I'm going to call it male, female,
Okay.
and you can call it yin yang, right? Whatever you want to call it. And this is his drawing right here with the prima materia with the yin yang, which, actually goes back to what I showed as the prima, right? The yin yang. And again, I'm not unique and different. I'm just showing how a lot of this corresponds to what we've been discussing. And so from this prima, we have the mind with the prima materia, which is the Akasha. That would go into the celestial salt, which is actually what is called prana in Ayurvedic, right? And would be called the alkaline in the biological ionization method, where you're mixing the earth and the water, right? Prana side. And then you would have the celestial niter, which is the secret fire of man, which is air and fire, which actually makes the acidic portion of man. Okay. And then these come down and create sulfur, salt, and mercury. So this is the basic model of alchemy here, where we separate this fixed out, the earth and the water, by the steam. So if you were to cook, what you'd do is you'd take a material, say like you could take oregano, and you would put an alcohol, say grain alcohol, with that, and you could just let that sit. And then what you would have left over would be, as you pour out the alcohol, or you say you put that in a tea kettle and steam it also. As that steam comes out, you'd get this volatile, which is the air in the fire. And then what would be left would be this fix, which would be the plant material. And then you'd have the third part, which would be the mercury, which is actually that alcohol with that essence of that plant. And then once you take that physical matter of that plant that's left over and burn it, that would give you the salts, and you mix that back in. So this very much is a model of that coincides with Russell, but it also coincides with, you know, the biological ionization that I've talked about, which this is really the basis of terrain theory. Because we look at biological ionization of the soil also. And what this says is that the body and soil are one. They're the same thing. So within biological ionization, we talk about the alkaline, the negative, the yang, the female, and we talk about the acidic, positive, yin, and male. So again, we're using this, you know, positive, negative, which, you know, Leo didn't like. But again, you could say yang, female, alkaline, or acidic, yin, male, and get rid of the positive and negative. If you wanted to talk in a more euphemistic way of those two things. So within this, you have this spiraling. I think that this is the diagram I wanted to talk about last week, because we talked about the spiraling, right? So as you see, this is spiraling up, right? Spiraling up, spiraling up. Okay. So this is what Russell would call radiation, right? Okay. Which is the female component. And then the spiraling down this way, getting larger and larger, right? Because this is going up and up into the heavens, right? And dissipating into the ether. Where this is getting larger and larger, right, as it's coming down, right? Dissipating into the earth. So this is the male. So this is what we call the gravitation or the concentration. This is how Russell would say it, right? So this is coming down, creating this. This is going up. So this is actually, as we concentrate, this is called life. And as we decentrate or radiate, this is called the death. So life, death, all shown within the biological ionization model also. To where and what we try to do in biological ionization is we take pH of the saliva.
Okay.
And then we take pH of the urine. And we do some calculations and we come up with numbers that we want that to be balanced. And if you're heavy on one side, and you also do some other things, you do some things with solids and sugars also, and conductivity, conductance of the urine. That then you try to find out what you need to balance the alkaline and the acidity, and you can do that. And well, you do that through calcium and different types of calcium. So once you get the calciums balanced, then your cells are available to uptake nutrients from food. Until you get those calciums balanced, you can eat all the organic vegetables you want. You can actually take supplements. You can do all kinds of things. The cell will not accept them, even with water. You can say, I'm gonna drink a lot of water. I'm gonna keep drinking. Well, your body's not going to be hydrated. It's not going to accept that. Once you get this balanced between the yin and the yang, once you get into this balanced condition, then you're able to uptake nutrients at a far greater rate. You need far less food.
I mean, that alphabetic stuff that he's making, the calcium.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been taking it. It seems, I don't know that it works, but
well,
I eat very little.
Yeah, that's the reason that Bayer does that.
He's got three kinds also, just like you just said.
Yeah, there's three kinds, and it really depends on what side of the spectrum you're on.
I think it's alkaline. He has the three of them. If you're acid, he has an alkaline. I think one. He has a 1, 2, and a 3.
Correct. And the reason he does that, because if you're actually doing this and you know what you need, then you could take, the acidic but most people don't do this calculation, don't know. So he makes the third, which is kind of like the generic calcium that would help you in either condition.
Right, one in the middle is what he called it. Yeah,
exactly. So when you see that, now you kind of know why he's offering that. And again, it all relates, it's all interconnected, right? We see the spiral that we talked about, which causes we can see the vortex here, right? We can see uh, everything that we've talked about, and last week with the spiraling and the spinning, creating the toroidal field. So we see that happening, and so I wanted to actually kind of show how this all related to each other.
I think the food's a whole major part of, how to kill us. We shouldn't be eating food.
Well, like I think Bear has said, is that 85% of our nutrients can be taken from the air.
Yeah, it just seems like the good way to, I mean, I don't know. There's all this crazy nonsense lately, though, so you never know.
Yeah.
With the,
Well, and our air is being polluted right now too. So who knows
yes,
how much
everything.
So the best thing is to actually try to make sure that we're balanced and what it is that can balance us, right? And once we get to this homeostasis part here in the center, then we're in health. So if we're on either side of these, we're in disease.
Well, what about this thing that we're carbon bodies and that they're carbon based or something? Is that correct?
Yeah, we're carbon based, correct.
And that's like 666, that we're actually angels and they put us in the carbon base so they could, destroy us or something, that we're in prison. Have you ever heard this nonsense?
Well, I've heard that, but don't
Scary
forget
stuff.
that, oftentimes when we talk about, for me, when I talk, and I don't, like I said, I'm on the fence of whether I really concentrate on that side, because everybody I know that concentrates on those sides
Goes bad, right?
it doesn't go well. They either die young or they kind of lose their
Yes.
minds. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's bad stuff. I agree.
so I don't really go there. Like I said, I think even Steiner kind of lost it a little bit, getting too much into his whole harmonic thing. But that's my own opinion,
Yep.
What I see is that we, on the other side, you have to, if we say that we chose to be here, right, and we chose to be material, why do we do that?
And well, if we didn't choose, though, is the other part, is what I'm trying to say. That
Well,
we're in
again,
prison.
yeah, but I enjoy life. I'm glad. I'm glad. I love strawberries. I love to eat. I love. Brian knows that.
Yeah.
I love to entertain. I love to do these
Good.
things. I love to, be with people. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would hate. I wouldn't say I'd hate, but if my existence was just to a spiritual body, I don't know if that's something I would like to do. And so I believe that I chose to incarnate on this planet.
Right.
And I chose to be God's little probe, that's out here doing these things, so that the one mind can actually grow and expand also. Because through our physical bodies, through his awareness of us, he becomes more aware of physicality. And so, I don't know why it is, but I'm glad. And, whether or not it's a trap, I think a lot of it has to do with your outlook.
Yes.
It has a lot to do with your outlook, and I think that it's almost, for me, it's not beneficial for me to think that only higher resonances are better.
I agree. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That lower resonances are just, we don't want to be on either side, high or too. We don't want to be too high. We don't want to be too low. Right? We want to be in the center, which I call the Christ consciousness. Right? I think in that, if you watch the video that I did on this, that actually has this that's what it talks about. Up here is the Luciferic realms. Down here is the what's his name again? Harmonic realms. Where you want to be is right here in the center in creation, in the 0 point with Christ. The Christ.
What's harmonic?
Harmonic was a concept that Steiner had that came actually from the book Faust, written by what's his name? Goethe.
I haven't read it, but I have it somewhere.
Goethe.
Yeah, Goethe. Yeah. Because Steiner was the archivist for Goethe, so he took a lot of Goethe's mind and theories on as his own. And when you get down to harmonic, this is where you get technology. This is where you get into like a sub plane of humanity. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but if you also read Steiner, we started out as angelic beings, into form. So, and we chose that. So it's like if you're going to take some of it, you got to take all of it and look at it, just not parts you like or dislike.
Yes. I mean, it just, I actually shouldn't watch that stuff because it gets me crazy. And someone sent me one recently.
Mhm.
Oh,
Just very negative stuff, though.
Yeah.
We're angelic beings. We shouldn't be in these bodies, that we're put in prison and all this nonsense.
yeah, well,
Certainly not a good thing to listen to.
Yeah, and like I said, some of that comes from the idea that the original sin, and that kind of stuff, and that our bodies are evil. And
mm,
like I said, I don't. That's not where I want to go. I like being here. I like my body. As Paul the Apostle said, all things are beneficial. All things are legal, but not all things are beneficial. Right?
yeah,
We can do everything we want, but not everything is going to be good for us. So.
Hmm.
I think that that's why we're given free will, as Giselle has talked about many times. Okay, so number 2, is there a sensation between balanced parts or balanced condition of matter? And page 61 says no, the electrical current is impossible in an equilibrium condition. Hence, we feel no sensation whatever when our bodies or parts of them are in a balanced condition. So what Walter Russell's saying is that the electrical current is impossible. So we see the idea of the current and the electricity, and then we get back to here, which is the balanced condition, right? So if we're in this balanced condition, our sensing goes to 0 and we go into pure knowing. And this is kind of what I think Buddhism talks about a bit, is to get rid of the body, right? We're not really getting rid of the body. We're getting rid of the sensations, and what Walter Russell, I think, would say is we're no longer feeding that body or having that body control us. So as I've said before, hunger turns into gluttony, sex turns into lust, all these things, love can turn into conceit and different things. There's all good things taken to its ultimate end is detrimental. So we want to have this balanced state and not be run by, as Paul also said, that what I hate I do, and that what I do I hate. Now, again, it's could be saying that he's actually that's when you get into I'm the prisoner of this body. But do we have to be a prisoner of this body? The answer is no. The answer is no. We don't have to be a prisoner of the body. We can actually use the body for our benefit if we keep it within what we do, and know that and understand that we're getting lots of impulses from all over the place, right? As I shared earlier, we got this body right here that's being influenced by all these planets, right?
yeah,
We got a heck of a lot of planets that are influencing our body and influencing what we do. Now, how many people are into astronomy or astrology?
I am
And
for years.
so right, that there's certain times where the
I believe it.
the stars and the alignment of planets are affecting us in certain ways.
The
Now,
moon, to me,
and do we let that control us? Do we have to read our horoscope every
usually.
day to know what to do?
No,
No.
I mean,
Usually it gets me.
there's
To
always,
be
there's
honest.
also really beneficial alignment. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
so when you get enough to know, then, certain decision you make are going to have a really great impact or not. So, there's timing for everything, and there's a lot that you can use those energies with. But
Exactly. And that's kind of where alchemy came from also, was that, if there was detrimental influences from Jupiter or from Saturn, you may make a tincture from a plant that corresponded with those planets, which they do, like say St. John's wort
yeah,
actually corresponds with the sun. So if the sun was going to raise some havoc on you, you might want to take a tincture from St. John's wort to help balance you out on that. So that's kind of the reason for alchemy, was that they actually understood these other influences on the body, and they've used plant medicines or animal or mineral tinctures to help balance, to get back into this balanced state. And again, that's what we're doing when we do this biological ionization. We see if we're too out. We're not really looking at why we're imbalanced here from a supernatural or energy perspective, even like what Walter Russell said. We're just looking at this as a physical condition. So again, we're just looking at if you remember when we talked about this, and this is one thing I get into quite a bit, is that we talk a little bit here is that we have the cause and we have the effect. And we can spend lots of time on trying to deal with this effect to no avail.
Mm.
When we have to actually look at the cause, right? And what's the cause? And and some people say, well, you just can't live in that upper world. I'm not saying that we, again, I know the Bible well, and the Bible says, we can be in the world but not of it, right? So there's certain times that remedies. I mean, if I get, my leg gets cut, I want to go get a suture. I'm not going to go look at Saturn. I mean, that might have been the cause, but I'm not going to pray to Saturn to sew it up. I'm going to suture it. I'm going to take those, but I may look to Saturn to see what may help heal it. After the severity is gone, or the has passed. So any comments on that about balance and the body and sensation and sensing?
When I think of, I think I saw this in the Tesla book, when he's, I think it's in a movie that I have on Tesla. And basically he's showing his instrument with all this electricity. And he's passing the current to himself. And then somebody from the audience comes in and takes his hand, and the whole, because he's trying to show that whatever he's creating and he's showing them is not going to hurt the body. Okay. It's just going to go through right to the person. So when I see this, I'm thinking of that, the body is smart enough, okay, however it's built, that even if it's an electrical universe, it says we're not going to have any sensation at that. Anyway, that was just something that came to my mind, but maybe it's not related. But
yeah, well, again, what's going through Tesla is a resonance, electrical, and so on. And there are frequencies that don't harm us, and then there are ones that do.
Yeah, and he was doing the higher whatever he was doing. And he was just trying to show it won't hurt you. It was really interesting.
I think there's a whole chapter where they do that with a lot of people connected, doing his, in his tests. So it is a book that also I've seen the same thing.
I have a movie. It's pretty good. It's a documentary, but anyway.
So with this, we're talking about this balanced condition, right? And the bodies are parts, and there is a balance. So when we're in an equilibrium sensation, since we feel no sensation whatsoever when our bodies or parts of them are in a balanced condition. Number 3, how does Walter Russell describe electrical awareness? From page 62, just as machines receive electrical impulses and respond in motion, the body is an organic machine made of cells which are aware of the mechanistic purpose and respond to electrical messages sent to them. So as we go back and we look, say, even if we look at this, right? This body, this sensing body is getting these electrical impulses, right? Well, where are we getting them from? Well, if you look at this, right? We're getting them from all over the place. We're getting them from the one, from God. We're getting them from the planets. We're getting them from other people. Within alchemy, what they say is that the sun radiates out this light. What's absorbed is what we see. So like what we see as Jupiter would be the light that's being absorbed, but then it reflects back what it doesn't use to us. So we're getting bombarded constantly with electric, currents and images and thoughts and things that are not our, and the more that we realize where these currents come from, even when we watch TV, you're getting bombarded with a bunch of waves of that programming that's on TV. And we're not really looking at where that comes from. We're just looking at it as it's something on TV. We're not looking at who created it, why they created it, and so on and so forth. So we just think it's entertainment, but it can have negative consequences if we don't really think about what it is we're watching and why. So we're constantly getting these electrical impulses, which go through the ether, through the Akasha, and then resonate with us for our unique signature. When each person's going to have a different, based on when he was born. What's your sign? What was downloaded to you when you were born? What was in effect then? Your birth chart's very, very crucial to how you receive information and from whom. So we're just machines, is what he's saying, right? Our body's just machines. We can let we can let all these impulses that are running through us form our view of reality. Or we can say, I'm not going to correspond so much to electrical, and I'm going to go for the knowing. I'm going to go for the source. I'm going to try to seek, as Steiner said, clairvoyance. Well, how do you do that, right? How do you seek clairvoyance? As we talked about earlier, it's going to the 0 point, right? The place of non-feeling, going into inside, meditation. That's where we begin to see the knowing and get away from all this sensing.
Did Steiner know what's his name? Steiner?
Tesla, you mean? Did Steiner know Tesla? Did Steiner
No. Did Walter Russell know Steiner?
I don't know. It doesn't really say. I'm sure that they all read each other. I mean, I'm sure that they read a lot of the same works, but there's no mention in Steiner or in Russell of Steiner. I mean, Steiner.
Yeah, no, I mean, Tesla, I've heard something about Tesla and Russell.
Yes, Tesla and Russell had correspondence. Tesla told
Nothing,
Russell to lock it up, right? Which
yeah.
I know that I know that Steiner knew Jung because he wrote about Jung. But
crazy stuff Steiner's come up with, though, like that he saw the Archangel Michael, beat something in 1870 or 1850 or something.
Yeah, and
where does he get this from?
Through clairvoyance, and again,
amazing stuff he says.
And again, he went into trance and went into inside and went into meditation, and said that he received these images, just as Walter Russell was in meditation and trance when he received this information.
It's unbelievable.
And so when we look at these great geniuses of the world, they all say that's where they got their information, it was downloaded to them. Now, is that true? I'll take it at face value for now. I'll try to do it myself. That's why I sent out within the within the group here, this breath work by Swedenborg.
Yeah.
Shit, you should send me that too. Where is it?
It's here. It's a book.
In the thing.
Yeah, it's in here. And it talks about how to use breath work to actually go into these higher planes.
Oh yes, I think I got it already. Yes, it's really deep.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. It's like a booklet.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Obviously you download it, but it has a front like a man sitting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just one technique, right? There's other techniques.
Heavy stuff.
But again, that is, if I was to find, one common denominator in a lot of this, is that it was breath work that got into these states.
Yeah.
Breath work and meditation in some way. you know. And that's what's really, you know, what the Ayurvedic and all these other traditions look to. So, you know, when you start seeing the commonality and threads, that's kind of what I concentrate on rather than the similarities and esoteric or fringe sides that go out there.
I believe it personally, to be honest with you.
Right. So any more comments on that we're just biological machines receiving electrical impulses?
Computers.
Biological computers. And we think that is us, and that is not us.
Well, it's fine-tuned, that's for sure.
Well, I need
Sometimes it's
reformat.
fine-tuned, sometimes it is.
Needs formatting in my case. Wipe it and reinstall.
So question number 4, is electrical awareness limited to man and animals? From page 62, it says no. The mineral and vegetable kingdom, as well as the various electrical particle, is the mightiest electrical particle to the mightiest galaxy. So this electrical awareness is throughout the universe. So all this that we're, you know, like I said, Jupiter is receiving electrical awareness being sent back. If you ever listen to Rupert Sheldrake, you know, he has all these discussions on, you know, is the sun conscious? You know, are planets conscious? Are all these things conscious? Well, listen to Russell and say, yeah, you know.
They're higher beings, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah, everything's conscious, right? And that's why, you know, that the ancients actually gave, you know, Zeus was Jupiter, right? Mars was, you know, Ares, Apollo, right? I think Mercury's Apollo. But each planet had its own god because that was their essence of their being. The Christian church came later and gave them, you know, angelic names, you know, come see, come saw. But you know, when you talk about Steiner, he's just, you know, he's viewing it through a Christian framework.
Yeah.
Really? As a religious thing or as a religious?
Well, I think it's when you talk about terminology, the terminology is a religious framework. I don't think the concepts are a religious framework. It's just as I said here, where, you know, you can say ether, you can say akasha, you know, there's really two different dynamics in religion. One's Ayurvedic, you know, one's from Egypt and Greece, you know. They're more Western, I guess you would say. I don't know if you call Egypt Western, but if you know, drew a line, it'd be right under Greece. So, you know, so a lot of that is that mindset. And so we use those terms. And that's why it makes it difficult sometimes, because they're the exact same term, just expressed in a different way by definition.
I mean, he believes though that like science and theology are one, no?
They are.
Oh, good. Right. Because it seemed like the Christian, you know, the Christian Catholic Church does not think that way, but maybe I'm mixing those things up.
Well, I think, again, and this kind of gets back to this concept of Ahriman, where there's different types of electricity. Now, the electricity that we're talking about here, okay, that's going to and from and being communication is not the electricity that's in your wires in your house. That's a degraded electric current.
Yeah.
And that's why computers are not sentient beings, and Russell says they never will be, because that is not divine electricity.
They definitely never will be.
Yeah,
they can be controlled by such.
Exactly. It's again, it is just as there's nothing new under the sun, and it's just a created type of electric field that we see, and that has been created. But it was not originally intended to be that way.
Yep.
So everything has this electrical awareness. Everything is, you know, through the ether is being fed and being communication, and it's all a fabric, and it's all one, and it's all speaking and interacting, and as that pebble drops, it moves throughout, and As it moves in me, it moves to the farthest planet in the galaxy. That's amazing to think about, right?
Without doubt.
So how is the physical universe solely controlled? From page 63, by electrical sensations, which is measured and balanced by the still magnetic light, centering all things.
But still magnetic. What does that mean?
If we go back to this diagram here, the still magnetic light universe of God's knowing, which is invisible, unchanging, unconditional, and unmeasurable. So as we have all these waves, you know, like this diagram here, flowing through, right? Flowing through, flowing through, flowing through. All these things affecting everything. It's the knowing of God that keeps it all in balance.
And how is it still if it's moving?
That's because God is a still magnetic light. The electric wave is moving. The stillness is what keeps the balance.
With the control.
Yeah, once again, back to this original diagram here, right? Here's a still magnetic. It sends out a pulse, which is the 2-6 light, right? And then this all becomes electric.
Difficult
To, and that's why I think that's why I'm trying to bring in so many different little aspects.
Yes, I know.
You get a little bit better, you know, idea of really what's going on rather than just what Russell's saying, because he knew this stuff.
Yep.
But this book, you know, the Secret of Light would probably be, you know, 9,000 pages if you put all this stuff in.
I bought one of his other books, the Universal Law thing.
Yeah, the Universal one. Yeah.
The kit or something. It's like a giant teaching book or something. Course.
The home study course.
Course one, yeah.
Yeah. It's just cool.
So
it's huge.
So within that, right, is measured by this still magnetic light centering all things. So within, you know, what Russell's saying, we have these waves that are going through everything. They go through everything. They, you know, all the plants, all the planets, all the materials, all the minerals, everything in the world, right, encompasses these electric waves and communicate and are one together, all held by the one. And that's the same thing that we also learn from alchemy, you know. The all or the one is that which is the fundamental truth, the substantial reality. This all is beyond comprehending. So you have the all. I mean, this is nothing new in the history of man, right? This is what's from time beginning, is that they all knew this. And it was lost, and Walter Russell brought it back, but it's slowly getting lost even more now by the nature of our world. As you remember, my friend, the enlightened engineer who I met, a really sharp guy, said, you know, well, no one thinks this way now. I said, hallelujah, you're right. It's being lost. It's being lost. And so Russell's trying to bring that back. I do see it being brought back, but, you know, I still see even the ones I would call enlightened today still thinking that their sensing body is them, and they are being controlled by that sensing body.
Yeah, they get lost in the detail, or they get lost in, well.
Well, I mean, so do I. I mean, I'm not, you know.
And I'm not. No, I'm just
got it
saying.
all either, you know?
No, we all. I mean, we get some glimpses sometime. I just think it's encouraging to see that statement you just on that question, that there is like a measured and balanced wave there. So it's all coherent. It's all, you know, it's very intelligent.
Yes, and that's why, that's why I have my site, right? Akashic Intelligence, the original.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people think, you know, if
there.
you only look at the effects, then you don't know that there's such a wonder is out
Mhm,
there. That's, that's within us, and it's doing, I think it's amazing, it's just.
So the last question, and we'll kind of discuss it a
Mhm.
bit, but how does Walter Russell's description of the universe connectivity compare to the theory of quantum entanglement? And the theory of quantum entanglement is a physical phenomenon that occurs when a group of particles are generated, interact, or share spatial proximity in a way such that a quantum state of each particle of the group cannot be described independently of the state of the others, including when the particles are separated by large distance. Einstein termed it spooky action at a distance. So Einstein, people are aware of this, that, and I do it with my Spooky 2 Rife machines. I have what they call a remote generator, which if I put a piece of fingernail or DNA of your DNA and I actually put a frequency to that, it'd be like the same thing as me putting that frequency directly on you, no matter where you are.
What effect does it have on the person?
Well, it depends. Like I said, if you have a frozen shoulder, it would, you put a frequency for frozen shoulder and it would unfreeze your shoulder.
Good.
And I was kind of leery of all this, if does it work or not. And the only thing I can say was a test I did was that we had pantry moths.
We had what?
Pantry moths, like moths in your pantry, those little bugs.
Ah, yes.
You get in your pantry.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an environmental frequency that you can put on for pantry moths and pests. And so I killed one and put its body in some tape, and then I put that in this quantum, this remote generator. And after months of trying to get rid of these, they were gone within 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So does it work? It worked that time, right? Was it my intent? Was it the generator? I don't know. All I know is I did it, and they were gone. I know that it worked for me. So that's just an example of quantum entanglement.
How about somebody who has like a stroke and can't use their arm? Can you think you could help them?
Well, I mean, again,
it's worth a try, right?
Yeah, that's not what I do, but I can take their fingernail, I can put on a lot of different frequencies. Again, the problem I have with some of this is that the scalar and all this is based on the germ model again, the battle, the kill, and so on. So for me, people with strokes really have to look at what is the cause. I can help them with the physical side, right? With some of the physical issues, getting some circulation back, getting all that.
Mm-hmm.
There's work that they would have to do on their own to actually determine what was the cause of the stroke.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that Bear says also.
Yeah,
I can't. You have to do it.
Yeah,
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can support you. It's just like, I can, if you had bad legs, I can build you a brace, right? Is it going to cure you? No, it's going to help you walk.
Right.
And hopefully help you walk for a while or whatever to get you to a point to where you can heal yourself. But again, as what Walter Russell says, we have all these things that are influencing us, right? If you look back at that diagram of the planets in the body, right? All these things are influencing our body, right? What's my birth chart? What's going on with that? It's more than one modality that you have to look at in order to heal.
Yeah.
When Christ came, he said he'd look at people and say, your sins are forgiven. And the Pharisees said, well, how can you say that? You're not God on earth, And he said, well, what's the difference? Pick up your bed and walk, or your sins are forgiven, right? But now I don't know if that lasted forever, right? That's if that healed those people for a time. But
it did, but they had to come. Well, they had to realize what it meant for it to be lasting.
Exactly.
They actually had to work on themselves.
Exactly. And that's the same thing that I'm saying, that we can do these different modalities, and I've seen them work, but I've also seen people, revert back to their old ways of diet and thought and all kinds of things, lifestyles, that whatever they had came back. So that's quantum entanglement, and that, and it's been proven. There was experiments that were done recently that actually, and Greg Braden pretty excited about it and so on, that they've seen this spooky action at a distance. They prove that it does work. That what's done to one particle remotely can happen to a particle far, far away. It's been separated from it, but it's still part of the same particle. So,
is it similar to when Dr. Lando talked about he has the blood on a slide there, and the person is there, and whatever he's doing, either to the blood or to the person, and it reflects.
Exactly. It's closer proximity, but that is an example of quantum entanglement, not at quite a distance, at a shorter distance.
No, yes, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, but it just shows how far the resonances go, just as what Walter Russell's saying here. They're from end of galaxy to end of galaxy. And what they say is that quantum is faster than the speed of light. That quantum is instantaneous, regardless of distance. That's why as we get into quantum computing and all these other things, people are very scared that this instantaneous computing is going to be very powerful.
Yes.
It can also be very beneficial if used for the right purposes. So that was this week's discussion. Any comments?
I like the diagrams that we looked at, for sure. It helps. It really
does?
helps.
Good. It's fun kind of searching for different things.
I'm sure.
No.
And especially the alchemy part that you showed us. It's really neat.
Well, like I said, I think it's to really get a grasp on this, you almost have to become a wizard in a sense. You have to learn lots of many different things, and then it all starts making sense because it all starts dovetailing together. Okay, so with that being said, I appreciate you guys all coming. I appreciate you showing up, being interested, and chiming in.
Yes.
And we will speak next week, and I'll send out some new Q&As for the next chapters. We'll probably be doing. Let me see if I got the book close by here. Do I? No, I do not. But I'll send out what our next chapter. We're on 11, so we'll probably do 12. Looks like we can get through about one chapter a week. I'll probably do it I'll probably do questions for 3 weeks.
Okay.
Just to have them,
Yeah.
But, we'll probably just do one chapter a week. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Thank you.
Hey, hi, Tamara.
Tomorrow, are you here?
I'm late. I have to go back. I'm interested in I missed the whole thing about alchemy, I guess, but I'll go back.
It's going to be recorded, and I'll be sharing as time.
I love the wood.
What's that?
I love the wood.
Oh.
Oh, every time we look at your room, it's so nice.
That's so funny. I have a lot more out there to stack.
That's good, though. You have wood. That's good.
Yeah, it is good, definitely. 6 months of winter, so.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, I'll go back and look or listen.
Yeah.
And look.
And like I said, I'll be bringing in, biogeometry too, because a lot of the alchemy stuff pertains to biogeometry.
It's funny you say that because this last where I joined in, I just watched a great.
I'm gonna stop recording right now, okay? Just
Sure.
Since we're just talking.
I watched a great podcast with Dr. Ibrahim